Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Dan Sullivan. I'm the RVP for the Eastern region for Condusive Technologies. It's the top of the hour. We've got a couple other people still signing in, so just give it another minute or two and we'll get started. But to those on board already, thanks very much for joining, and look forward to sharing some great information with you this afternoon. Again, everybody, good afternoon. This is Dan Sullivan speaking. Thanks for joining. I'm sure there are many reasons you're here with us today, but certainly losing a file can be just devastating. You know, utter panic and pandemonium can certainly break out. And at Conducive, you know, we get it. And that's why we created Undelete. And I'm going to share with you a latest release of Undelete today, Undelete 11. You can recover files in just seconds, and especially with today's work from home environments, certainly data protection and speedy recovery are even more important. But before we get started, I did want to introduce a special guest that's joining with us today. We've spared no expense to bring Gary Kwan, otherwise known as GQ, who's Conducive Senior Vice President of Technology Strategy, to the webinar today to share with us. He is the father, I should say, of Undelete. So we have the man here today to help us get through the technical discussion on Undelete. GQ, you out there?
I am, Dan, and don't let Dan fool you. Although he's mainly a salesperson, he's very technically oriented, and he can carry the conversation. But I'm here for the deep dive questions and glad to be here, Dan. There is one thing I like to say. We like to make these sessions interactive. And interactive, I mean, if you have any questions at any time, you'll see a question box in there. Go ahead and put those questions in, and we'll either get to them during the session or at the end. And as Mr. Sullivan would say, no question is a bad question. Thanks, Dan.
I love it, GQ. You're taking away my lines. Again, thanks for taking the time and joining, and thanks for developing such a great product. One additional piece, folks, I do want to mention is at the end of this, we will be sending you a link to a free trial of Undelete 11 Server Edition. So thanks for hanging in there, and you'll get some goodies at the end of the webinar. So many of you may have known us from a previous life. We were the Diskkeeper Corporation, and we've been in business over 39 years. We're the 12th oldest software company in the world, but we rebranded ourselves back in 2012, more so around our virtualization software. Virtualization had entered into the fray, and you no longer defragged a SAN or an SSD, and that's around our Velocity product. And also GQ and his team respun the software to work both Diskkeeper and Velocity to work in a virtual environment. But along the whole time, we've had Undelete and gone to a number of different versions of Undelete, and it's Undelete 11 we're going to talk about today. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that because of the work we do, we're a close partner with Microsoft. Because of the work in virtualization, we're a close partner with VMware. We recently certified as a Citrix Ready partner because of the VDI environment that we help optimize. GQ and his team, SQL Server is a very sweet spot for us with our I/O reduction software, and we recently certified under the Microsoft SQL Server I/O reliability certification. We've got a lot of street cred around what it is we do in Microsoft environments, and we've got a long time helping people recover files using Undelete. And Undelete today is installed in both small companies and large enterprises, universities, and government agencies. So pretty excited. That's it I'm going to say about the company. Pretty excited to get started and talk about Undelete. I'm not sure if I need to really set the situation up for you, because I'm sure you're here to find out how I can recover files quickly and easily. But you know, GQ, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a call with an Undelete customer and they say something like, you know, Dan, Undelete saved my bacon. And I think you had a specific situation that you could relate to our folks that that might justify saying something like that.
Well, actually, Dan, I have several, many, and I got to tell you, that's where I get the satisfaction, hearing it being used and helping people out. But one case that I do remember was there was a CEO, he was working on a PowerPoint presentation, and he said he spent about 4 hours on it that morning, and he accidentally deleted it. And he calls the IT people up, and IT people, they said, well, I can go to the backup from last night, but that won't have your changes in it. Then they gave us a call, and we have another feature in there that will help you recover files before you put Undelete on the system. We call it emergency Undelete, and I'll go into it in more detail later. But in essence, he was able to recover that file, and then the IT team wrote us back, says, guys, thank you for making us look like heroes to the CEO. So that was nice. And, we get a lot of these stories, not only from, large corporations, but down to home users where they've accidentally deleted some files, pictures from their flash drive or something like that. And we help them, Dan. So thanks.
You're welcome, and thank you, GQ, for that. So, folks, you can see some of the situations that on the slide there, and I love the little picture of the individual and what he's going through and or she's going through. But we're also going to ask you now, kind of what kind of experience you've had relative to deleted files. I'm going to ask Dawn Richcreek, our Director of Marketing, to join the call here and take us through a quick poll, so you'll get to participate in today's event. Dawn, you out there?
I'm out here, Dan. Hey, thanks for tagging me in. We'd certainly like to ask our audience today, just a quick poll. We want to see how many times per month they have to deal with these types of things of recovering files for their users. So we're looking, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, or just simply a time, more than you would like. So we'll just give this poll here another, quick second to wrap up, and then we will close it out. So just one more second here, just quick answer from our audience, and we'll show you guys. Okay, here we go. Let's share what we found. Looks like, Dan, there's an assortment, but the majority of them are at least 1 to 5. So it's definitely happening to our people on the call. We have another, so that's about 73% of the audience there. Another 23% are at 5 to 10 times a month, and then there's a chunk of the audience with 10 to 20. So there you go. Our audience is experiencing these things that you're talking about today.
Well, Dawn, thanks very much for that. And folks, thanks for sharing the information. It only takes one, right? And one is enough. And for those that are experiencing one or more, I hope today is beneficial to you. So besides being in the situation of losing a file, the reality of the situation is it may not be recoverable. And we've heard a lot of folks come to us and say that they can't recover a file, especially in the case of what I'm going to call a 0-day delete. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But that's when a file's been created or a version has been saved and then gets deleted before the next backup occurs. And, with that, it's just not in the backup. How are you going to find it? How are you going to save it? How are you going to recover it? In most cases, you can't. But how about with the click of a button, you'd be able to instantly recover that file, or even better case, let the user recover the file themselves. So GQ, I wondered if you might spend time talking about kind of what some of the problems are recovering lost files.
Be glad to, Dan. Yeah, first thing comes up is backup. You go back and find that file, but Dan has indicated, if it's a 0-day delete file, that those changes that made from the last backup won't be in there. And then many times, and I'm sure many of you run into this, they don't remember the full name of the file. It says, I was working on this document, I accidentally deleted it. They don't remember the location of it. So you have to go and find out where that file is on that backup. That can be time consuming. Now, you could use snapshots, and they do help. They do a little better job, because depending on the frequency, they can help, but don't eliminate the 0-day deletion risk. And with increase in frequency, they can be a little costly in terms of storage requirements. And then finally, maybe you can think, well, why not just use a Windows recycle bin? But the Windows recycle bin is very limited. First of all, it will not protect network shares. So, users on their client systems, editing or saving or creating files on a network share, those won't be protected if they accidentally delete it. Then, of course, the Windows recycle bin, it's very limited. It will only capture files that you delete from the Windows Explorer shell. It won't capture, as I said, network files, command line files, or files deleted from applications. So those are some of the problems you get when trying to recover lost files, Dan. But if you go to the next slide, we can show just a quick example of what really happens. You're on a client machine, you're looking at a file on a file server, and when you delete that file, it's gone. It's not in the files recycle bin, it's gone. So this is where we develop Undelete to help out, Dan.
That's a problem, GQ. It's gone.
Yes.
Well, like you said, Undelete to the rescue, folks. So you're going to learn here how you can easily and quickly recover those and many other types of files quickly and easily, or as we even said, let the end user do it. So this in Undelete 11, there's a lot of updates that GQ and his team put together. We've got an enhanced recovery bin. You can capture all of those deleted files that GQ was just talking about before that you can't get back generally. From a versioning standpoint, you can recover a number of iterations of files. We've got one customer, for example, it's a major clothing retailer, and they happen to design all of their pieces. And they're constantly making changes and going back and forth on, this, do I do that? And they're using Undelete to let them go back to those previous versions, take a look at what they've done, make revisions on those revisions, etc., and just save them an incredible amount of time. It's also true now for Microsoft Office files and even some of the specific and custom files like CAD files and Photoshop and other file types. So very robust as to what it can do from a versioning standpoint. So GQ and his team also gave it a familiar File Explorer interface, and he's going to show that to you a little bit easier, but it's really easy to find and restore deleted files. You've got a drag and drop capability. And interestingly enough, if this is important, the server admin, whoever has admin rights to the solution, can monitor file deletions, like who did it, when did it occur, or even, have there been a large amount of deletions, file deletions here for some specific reason that's unbeknownst to anyone else. And finally, GQ and his team also built in extensive search features. So not only do you have your normal name, date, range, etc., that you can search for, but there's also even a wildcard searching capability that you have now today. So GQ, maybe we can go through and take a little bit, see what's going on with Undelete here from a recovery standpoint.
Sure, Dan. Let's take a show a quick example of a system with Undelete on there. Similar to before, a person on a client machine is going to delete files on the network share. And you know what? He does that, and what happens? If you look at the next slide, you'll see that they're gone, as you expected. They don't show up on the client machine, and on the file server, they're gone from that folder. But if you go to the next slide, Dan, and you open up the Undelete recovery bin, you'll see that all the files are there. We will save them in our Undelete recovery bin. And then to recover any of those files, it's as simple as just selecting those files, and you can select all of them, or a folder of files, or a single one, and you have the choice of restoring them back to the original location or to a location of your choice there. That's simple, Dan. That easy.
I tell you, that is easy. And folks, it is that quick. As quickly as we move through those few slides, that's how quickly and easily you can go back and recover those deleted files. But that's not all that's built into Undelete today. We've got these additional features. GQ mentioned earlier that even without Undelete being installed previously, we have a feature called Emergency Undelete that allows you to recover deleted files before Undelete is even installed. And Undelete Client allows users to recover their own deleted network file shares, saving any of you out there that are managing server environments certainly valuable time. And the next two GQ I think are really important. I'm going to ask you to chat about both the wipe free space and secure delete.
Be glad to, Dan. And let me just touch upon those 2 points above. First of all, the Undelete client. It's important to note that it says allows users to recover their own deleted network share files. The Windows security rights and permissions on the file, we retain those. So users can only see and recover files that they had rights to before. So there is that protection. Now, Emergency Undelete, when you delete a file on a Windows file system, it really doesn't get, in quotes, deleted. What happens is the spaces or blocks on the volumes where that file data resides is now marked available, so it can be overwritten, but that data still remains there. And that's how we can, in many cases, recover deleted files if they're not overwritten yet. But, many of you say, well, when I delete a file, I don't want to recover it, especially very sensitive data. And that's why we developed these next 2 features. With wipe free space, what we'll do is we'll go look at all the free blocks or space marked on a volume, and we'll override it with a certain pattern to help them make them unrecoverable. And then also now, if you have secure delete enabled, anytime you delete a file, before it gets deleted, we will overwrite that file with this pattern, so that data cannot be recoverable. Now, we have many secure sites using this, and with this new work at home environment that we have, if people are working on sensitive data at home, this can be important, Dan. So thanks.
Absolutely, GQ. Well, I'm not going to let you off the hook that easier, because there are even more features that you and your team built into Undelete. And one I think is really important is this whole cloud ready attribute of Undelete.
Thanks, Dan. And we right now, and we're still developing this even further, but right now you can put the recovery bin out on the cloud, which gives it a little further protection in case something happens on your local systems. Then, as Dan indicated, we'll save all files when they get deleted, but there's a lot of files that, you probably don't want to save, zero length files, temporary files, things like that. And we have an exclusion list that we, by default, comes with the product. And a lot of those we put exclude from saving, but you, the user, can edit that and determine what to exclude and what not to exclude. Then we also have some users that just want certain folders or files to be saved, and we allow that too. Then we have the recovery bin management. You know, before I said we save every file, but you don't want this bin just to keep on growing. So by default, the recovery bin is initially is set to 20% of your free space size. And as more files gets in there, the older ones get purged. We also have that versioning feature where it automatically saves previous versions of files, and by default it will just save the last 5 versions and purge it out. So some nice management in there. And then the server version has some features on it that help you install or uninstall, deploy to multiple systems in your network. And then also with that server version, you can remote connect to any Undelete installation in your network, and it'll show up like you're running it from your own system there, like you're running it locally. But now you can do it all from one single pane of glass. And that's it, Dan.
Pretty impressive, GQ, and that's certainly a significant amount of added value that you and your team have brought into the Undelete product. So thank you for that. And again, folks, I got to believe this is generating some thoughts and questions in your mind. And as GQ said at the beginning, and I'll say it again, no question is a bad one. So please do use that question box to ask any and all questions that may be lurking in your mind relative to some of the things we've been mentioning here today.
Yeah, I see we're getting some good questions, Dan. So that's good.
Good. Yep, and we hope it to be interactive, folks. So please continue. You know, we talked about some other changes that you've made to Undelete, GQ, and I hope we could just walk through these pretty quickly, like the interface and search capabilities. So I'm just going to have you take us through that.
Be glad to. You know, as we indicated with this latest version, we went to a familiar file explorer-like interface. So when you open up the recovery bin, it's got to be something that you're familiar with here, Dan.
That's great. And then, you know, you talked about enhancing the search capabilities here, GQ.
Yes. You know, as I said, you'll go in these situations where the user doesn't remember data on that deleted file, so it's hard to find. And we
kind of like something
that.
I do, right?
So if you look at what we've done in the search, you can put wildcard file names in there. You can determine what folders or subfolders to look into. You can also find out, you know, when certain files were deleted within a certain date range and find that. Or you can even do it by files deleted by a certain person and search from there. So we've given that capability in there, Dan.
No, that's great. And then I mentioned that retailer that's using versioning very heavily. Maybe you could mention a little bit about that, GQ.
You know, and this is a nice feature we put in there, and that is right now when you edit a document, you know, let's say Word document or a PowerPoint, when you edit that and you close it and you edit the other one, that previous one is gone. Well, with our versioning, we keep the by default last 5 versions in our recovery bin, and you can actually open it up and you can preview the file to see which one do I need to go back to. You know, I accidentally removed some data that I didn't mean to, so I'll go back to the version that still had it and recover it. And it's just single click to get it back. Damn, that easy.
I know that, and that's just it, GQ. It's so easy and it's so fast, folks. And that's really what all the customers that are using Undelete 11 are telling us today. And I'm not going to read these. You can read them faster than I can speak. But each one of these examples talk about how easy it is, how fast it is, and how simple it is to do. Like PC test engineering there at the end. It's much better and faster than retrieving from a backup. Absolutely. Money movers. They had a process where their clients were uploading billing files, and they'd have to receive the file and move it to their LAN segment, delete it, etc. And whatever reason, they needed to get the file back, they'd have to call the client. But today they use Undelete. They just get it done. Don't need to call the customer, makes them look a little dull in that regard. And as they just say, Undelete works. And the stories go on. Batesville Tool and Die. We talked about CAD files earlier. Helped us recover them when a whole bunch were accidentally deleted. Didn't have to mount backup drives. Maricopa County, UAB Department of Pathology. Excellent for quick recovery instead of, again, having to go to backup tapes. It's almost, it takes seconds, folks, to do this. So really, really impressive. So with that, there are three different editions of Undelete. Undelete Server, Desktop Client, and Undelete Professional. GQ, do you want to talk about these different versions?
Be glad to, Dan. And, Undelete 11 Server, that gets installed on the Windows Server systems. And those are the ones that you want to put on, especially when you have network shares on there. But it isn't just file servers. It can be any other type of server where, files are getting created and deleted or changed. Then we have, I'm going to go down to Undelete 11 Professional. That's more for the desktop version. And those are for your desktops or laptops to help, recover deleted files from your personal systems there or your workstations. Then we have the desktop client. The desktop client, as I indicated, it doesn't allow saving of local files, but it allows the user to connect to the network share where Undelete is installed and recover their own files. Now, I will say some admins don't want to do that. They want to be in control, and they may not want to allow the users to install Undelete 11 desktop client, but we give that option. You can give that to the users and they can recover their own files without disturbing you. Now, that doesn't protect their own files. That's where you can give them Undelete 11 Professional, which allows them to recover their own files on the local systems, and also it will allow them to connect to the network share on the server that Undelete installed in. So that's it, Dan.
That's great. And with Undelete Server too, GQ, we have 10 Undelete desktop client licenses that come with the Undelete Server. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. So
fantastic, a great deal. Fantastic deal, GQ. So you mentioned we had some questions. Before we get to those, I do want to talk about what the next steps might be for our audience out there. First, as I mentioned, you'll be getting an email from us with a link to download a trial version of Undelete 11, both server and professional. Please install it, put it to work. By the way, there's no reboot required to install it. Again, how easy can that be? It just installs in minutes and you're done. But again, if we have customers with hundreds and hundreds of Undelete licenses, server licenses installed, if you'd like, we're more than happy to work with you to expand that single trial license to a much greater population in your environment at no cost to you. And again, just happy to work with you to do that. So GQ, what are some of the questions we've got out there?
We got a good group here, Dan. I love it. Let me get started here. Jeremy says, can I save the recovery files to a different drive so I do not use drive space on the main drive? Yes, you can, Jeremy. By default, a recovery bin folder gets created on each local drive that you have it enabled on. But you can create what we call a common recovery bin. And there you can place that any place. And I said you place it on the cloud too. And what happens is all the files will get put onto that common recovery bin. And you can not only for one volume, you can do it for all the volumes. So all the volumes that are protected by Undelete, they'll get put in this one recovery bin. Now, Dave asks a good question here. He says, I know that Undelete 11 is not DFS aware. Is that a feature you are looking at for the future? And yes, they are, Dan. Got some new developers on Undelete, and they are looking at that. So thanks for asking that. Jasmine asks, when installing Undelete, what type of server does it need to be installed on? Well, these are, Undelete is for Windows servers. So it is for just Windows servers. Any server that has files that are getting created, changed, deleted, that you want to put protection on, this is what you want to do it. Also, you know, with that secure delete and wipe free space, if you want to make security on there, that's a whole different function, and that can be put on servers too. And I think I'm going to go jump down here because Jeremy asked a similar question. What version is servers is able to load on? We're still stuck on 2008 R2. Well, I have to say that Undelete, this still works back to server 2003. So it covers you all. Jeremy says, can this work on desktops as well and for local files on the endpoints? Yes. You can buy the desktop version, the professional version, and you put it on the desktops, and it will protect those local files on your desktop, laptops, endpoints. But as I said, the professional also allows you to connect to the network shares too to do that. And Jean Francis asks, does it work like a versioning of the file also? Jean Francis, I'm not, maybe you can clarify that for me, but it does, you know, every time you edit a file, close it, edit it again, usually it doesn't save the version. We will save those versions of the certain file types that you specify.
And you set up to file up to 5 copies, right, GQ?
By default, it says it will save up to the last 5 copies before purging out the oldest one, but you can change that. User can change it to whatever they like. Okay.
Great.
Then Jasmine says, can it be installed on a server separate from what you're wanting to back up? What if we recover? And yes, you can. That's no problem at all. And then Khan asks, what if we recover a file using Undelete and delete it after editing it a bit? Will it be treated as the same file, or will it be treated as a separate file for versioning by the Undelete? You're going to get, we may go overboard here, Khan, but we will do both. You know, as you edit it and you close it, we will save that copy too. And then if you delete it later, we'll save that deletions too. And you'll see that in the recovery bin.
Great questions, GQ.
Yeah, this is a great group. I love it. Then John Francis has a question for you, Dan. How does a license for server work? Will the server come with some client? And first of all, we did mention you get 10 client license with server, but some more can be purchased. So there, okay. Then John says, is it an Undelete agent installed on the file server, or is it a separate server just for that? No, actually, it's actually the product gets installed on your file server. It's not a separate server. It gets installed on there. And then besides protecting those files locally, as we said, people can connect and see with Desktop Client or the Undelete Professional, you can connect to those shares and recover the files for themselves. Valerie says, can we use it for Mac computers? Sorry, Valerie, it is not set up for Macs right now, just Windows. And can you tell us about your system versus Git? Now, I'm going to have to say I'm going to have to review that, but I don't think we'll have any trouble with that. Then Con says, can we install or use it for RHEL? Con, I'm going to respond back to you later because I'm not sure what RE.
I think it's Red Hat Linux. Is that?
Oh, is that it? Okay.
I think.
If that's true, sorry. We're right now, it's just for the Windows versions. And will professional version recover files from USB drives? If it's formatted like with NTFS or FAT, yes, it will. And then this is from Steve. And tell you the truth, we've had many people use emergency undelete on USB drives where they had photos on there and accidentally deleted, and they need to get it back. The Donald says, how does it work with OneDrive? Well, I'll be honest with you. OneDrive does have its own protection within itself. With OneDrive, if you want to put it on the recovery bin, you can set it. We get some instructions on how to set up the recovery bin, a common recovery bin, onto OneDrive. So the recovery bin will get protected by OneDrive too, besides you having that online. And it says, why didn't Microsoft do this? Valerie says, well, I'm not sure, Valerie, but I got to tell you, we've been working with Microsoft since the early 80s, and they allow companies like us to help provide this extra feature for them. And we're not going to argue against that. And as you said, it should be part of the Windows OS. And we always believe that people should have this extra protection on their Windows systems. Dan, let me just check here to see if we got anything else here. Let's see. Now, one people ask, how much resource or overhead does it use? And very little. What we do is when a file gets deleted, we don't go and copy the file, which can take a while. We just rename that file into our recovery bin. A rename is very quick. All you're doing is just changing the file header and say, put it over there. And then in the background, it gets processed. In the background at lowest process priority. So no interruption to the users. And one person asked, can users undelete files that are not their own? And as I said, we keep the security rights and permissions on those files. So they are retained and only people can use it themselves. And Valerie says, very good system. You are on the good way. Thank you, Valerie. That's it, Dan. Great group.
Wow, those are great questions, folks. Thanks for exercising GQ so diligently here. It's great to see him doing the heavy lifting. So, folks, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for those great questions, and do look for that email with the free trial copy. Install it. Take it for a spin. Let us know if you'd like to try it on more systems. We're happy to work with you. And I'd also even recommend you take a look at our website and see the other products we offer to optimize Windows environments, our patented I/O reduction software that can drive anywhere from 30 to 50% of I/O reduction across your Windows environments, giving you anywhere from 50 to 300% application performance improvement. all from a single product. Again, no reboot to install, and everything's done automatically. So folks, thank you. Look forward to working with you. Look for that email, and stay safe, stay well, and have a great rest of the day.